Do I have lipstick on my teeth?
아니, my eye
It's too late for us. We're lost.
밑에 발라가지고 이게 번지는.
You know what? Just drink more wine. It's fine. Hey guys, so today I have an amazing treat for you. Today I'm sitting down with my favorite menswear designer, Dahae Kim, and we're going to ask her all of the juicy questions. And to make sure that she's telling us the truth, I have plied her with copious amounts of wine. So we're going to get all the drunken truth out of this woman who has been working in fashion for a bunch of years.
Yeah.
Bunch of years. Okay. So, Miss Dahae, who are you? What do you do? What's your brand? Why do you do it?
My name is Dahae Kim. I'm a menswear designer. I started designing for men since 2008 for myself and then someone else. And now I opened my brand called Witch Kim, and then I run my business. And why do I do it?
Why do you do it?
Because I love it.
Doesn't that suck though? Because fashion
No.
is hard. And
It's
when you fall
hard.
in love with fashion, it's kind of like falling in love with an abusive boyfriend.
Once you do fashion, and then when you love it so much, you do not get to date anyone. You do not get to make so much money, but you're so happy.
Wait, I thought fashion was super glamorous and everyone made tons of money so that everyone could wear dress no.
Those students or anyone who thinks fashion designer is like, sitting in a cafe with a sketchbook and then cigarettes, bullshit. That never happens. You don't have time to sit in the cafe smoking cigarettes. You smoke cigarettes in 3 seconds and get back to work.
I invited Dahae here today so that we could talk about the design process from the perspective of a working designer. It's different when you have these sort of like very formal, like Vogue.com interviews with famous people, like their lives, the lives of famous fashion designers, they're really different from the everyday lives of just working class designers. And I'm not saying that you guys don't have the potential to be an amazing, famous, filthy rich fashion designer in the future, but I am saying that that is a tiny percentage of the working fashion world. And the rest of us, we are, working every day, making middle class incomes, just loving fashion and doing our thing. And there, I don't think, are enough stories about people like Dahae out in the world so that you guys can get a realistic idea about working in fashion for most people. Dahae, tell us about your design process.
Well, design process. In the school, of course, you have a mood board homework and then attitude homework and fabric homework and color homework, and then it goes to the directions. But it's very different when you actually do your business. You need to cut that time short as possible. And then once you are, in case of me, once I'm inspired, I just sketch. I have a sketchbook all the time with me. And then once I'm inspired by someone, or anything, I don't have time to sit down and then research about that product or that whatever that is, and then spread out the boards and then color and then whatever. Instead of that, I just make notes all the time and then sketches anywhere you can think of. And then later on, by the time it's come to season, then you sit down and then collect the color stories and whatever you wrote down, read your journal again, and then spread out all your designs. That's time that I spend most of during the design process right now.
So would you say that learning how to create mood boards is not an important thing at school?
That's super important. What I'm saying is you don't have to, once you're working on your own business or something, you don't have to present it to any teacher or you don't have to expect a grade. It's all in your head. You know how to do it and you just do it for yourself. That's why it's eliminating the time.
So you have to learn how to do it at school so that by the time you graduate and are working,
you how to do it.
It's so much faster, you're practiced, and you don't have to get so elaborate with it.
Like we don't have to print out on a nice paper and then, like foam board or whatever, that board, we don't have to present it. But that board has to be running in your brain all the time. So it's so important to learn mood board and any kind of board. But like I don't spend much time on that board. Instead, I write journal and then just spread out the designs first. All of my wall in the office or in my house is all by the photos or writings or any kind of details. Like it just happens every day instead of, oh, this is my homework week, let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's important to learn how to do it. But that's the process in reality. For me, I spend more time on designing than thinking about the board.
Right. So you have your mood board inspiration sketchbook on the fly, less developed than it would be in school. How do you pull together your color story? Well, what inspires your color stories?
The most of time, the color story comes from the story for me. It's just everything for me is in imagination. I don't take photo or one object and then I want to take this color. Instead of that, from inspiration, the whole mood and then the feeling of myself comes into the color. So if I felt like one inspiration was like it's black and white, grayscale, but I feel like hint of red in this collection or red in this inspiration, then I use that color. So I'm not a visual designer. Once my teacher told me I'm not a visual designer, I'm a conceptual designer.
Mm-hmm.
So color, story, or whatever fabric comes from imagination. Yeah.
Do you play with fabric manipulation, texture exploration, or do you like to just, are you more of I like my fabrics already finished, I don't do any deconstruction, I go off and find my fabrics?
I used to love fabric manipulation, and then my whole strength when I was in school was playing with the fabric and then creating own textiles with the fabric without painting, like do whatever in the fabric. But then now, since I opened the business, I have to think about the cost all the time. So I'm just being realistic.
This is reality.
Yeah, I have to talk about the reality. So I have to cut down all this handwork of fabric and all that. So now I'm more into looking for some abstract prints or some manipulated fabric already made instead of me doing it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I haven't looked too much into the cost, but anytime I've tried any strange fabric manipulations, it's all about is it mass producible? And the only time I've really made my own fabric is when I've developed my own prints.
I once created a whole collection in a white fabric and then just painted in black. So it was abstract and then it was beautiful. But then if someone orders, I want exactly like that, I can paint exactly the same. It's going to be different.
Right.
And then if someone orders a 10,000 unit, I cannot paint for months without doing anything. So those kind of...
You're just going to have to hire some minions.
Yeah.
Oompa Loompas. Okay, so I get into arguments with students all the time about when in the design process you need to pick your fabrics. And I want you to answer that before I tell you what I tell students.
Before you design.
Ka-ching! Of course! Oh my God, this makes me so crazy. I am vindicated.
No, this was an argument with my students too back in Malaysia. They're like, what if I design this and I want to change the fabric? Then I say, but then you're not defined with your collection yet. I mean, it could be if this fabric doesn't work for your patterns, then you're like, oh, I have to change this fabric to more condensed weaving or something. That I understand.
Right, those are construction concerns.
Yes,
though.
But you have to have the vision that you want this collection to look in this kind of weight, this kind of fabric, this kind of fill before you spread out everything.
Oh my God. Vindicated.
Why?
You guys. Because I tell my students all the time, students come to see me and they're like, so these are my sketches, and I'm like, okay, where's your color story? And they show me their colors, and I'm like, where are your fabrics? And they're like, I don't have them. No. Like, how can you sketch without your fabrics? And they're like, well, I just did.
I have to tell you, it could work if you're doing student project. If you're doing school project, you design everything. And then I want this fabric to more lighter weight or whatever. But if you're in a reality and doing business, that could lose a shit ton of money.
No, see, when people do student projects, I want them to follow as realistic as a design process as possible, so that they don't develop bad habits. Like, you could form a habit where you're used to sketching without thinking about your fabrics. Okay. And then, like, secondly, you have to follow a professional timeline. I don't know about you, but every job that I've ever worked at, you are, you figure out where you're going with the collection. You talk to your creative director, you talk with your design team, and you're like, this is the kind of thing that we're thinking about. We're going to do a 70s revival because that's big right now. So we're going to make our collars bigger. We're going to do a lot of browns. And then you think about that, and you have to pick your fabrics, and you have to order your sample fabrics. And then as you're getting your sample yardage in, you're sketching, you're figuring things out, but you already know you're going to be working with distressed fabrics, and they're going to be this kind of weight, and so that you can design for that, and you're like creating a whole feeling together.
Yeah.
And the students, they just do these random sketches and they do these designs. And if you have 20 sketches and they're all over the place and you don't have fabrics, you might have designed in such a way that you're going to literally need 20 different fabrics to fabricate the collection, because they're everywhere.
They're gonna go bankrupt if they do that.
Oh my god.
The way I do, well, in school, again, like, I could have designed everything, but even if I had a fabric story, I could have talked to my teacher and then say, like, I think this one will work better with the lighter fabric. Then he's like, go find a lighter fabric. But before you sketch everything, you need to have the sense of what kind of collection it's going to be. And then so right now, like, the importance of a fabric show before you create a collection, that's why the fabric shows is held way before than actual collections happening. So designers can see the fabrics and then decide on the fabric and then design, instead of design and then find the fabric. Because if you design and then find the fabric and then keep changing,
so much
easily $10,000 is out
all the money.
Trash.
Where did all my money go? Oh, on this idiot who didn't pick her fabrics first. And I find, that when I have my fabrics like 95% finalized as I'm designing, it really helps me stay cohesive. Like, I'm not going off into this wild tangent that had nothing to do with what I was originally doing. People hear these fantasy stories about how Yves Saint Laurent created this collection and then he hated everything. And so in a week, he made everyone make a brand new collection.
That's the case of 0.0000001% of designer case.
The reason why that story is so famous is because it doesn't really happen.
It doesn't.
If it was an ordinary occurrence,
it
would no longer be.
We don't have money. They do.
Yeah, Yves Saint Laurent had like a team of like 50 couturiers, and back then there were no labor laws, and so he could keep them at the studio for 20 hours. And they have
like thousands of people in his team who can turn that around right away.
Do you really want to be that asshole designer who's like, okay, we created this collection with, hundreds of thousands of dollars, but never mind, we have a week before the show and I'm going to make you guys do everything from scratch again? Yeah, have fun being that guy. So let's say you are working on a 10 outfit collection. Okay. How much sketching do you do for that?
Over 100.
Easy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think that when students say that 100 sketches for a 10 outfit collection is too much.
Oh, no.
I think that some of them are saying that because they think that every design that you do has to be so different from the last sketch.
That's dumb.
Because what I find is be nice.
That's not true.
No. I invite people who are supposed to be nicer than me. Woo. I'm going to take your toys away if you're not. Here's what I think. I think that, when I design, like if I'm making one maxi skirt, I've designed 10 maxi skirts. And within that maxi skirt, they're all similar in design, but I'm playing with the proportions and I'm playing with the fabrications. Like this maxi skirt is going to have a wide yoke and this kind of like tucking top stitch detail. Like I've decided that's the first initial sketch. And then I'll do 9 more where I'm playing with the proportions of the yoke. I'm playing with the tucking layout on each one. And then on a couple of them, I switch the fabrication.
I think students are just complaining. I don't want to be mean, but I think students are complaining because they don't want to draw 100 outfits.
I mean, that's the whole point of my channel, right? To get everybody drawing to a certain level so that they can draw fast enough that designing is not tedious.
But, no one's asking you to draw perfect, like head to toe. As long as you can see what option and what design that is, you just sketch it out, like, and it's quick. Like, once you know the basic, then, like you said, I do the same thing for one suit jacket. I draw more than 20 outfits for, this kind of shoulder, this kind of, chest pockets, this kind of belt pocket, this kind of seam allowance, this kind of dart. Like, but unless you draw it out, and then unless you're a freaking genius, you wouldn't know, you wouldn't have in a visual that, oh, this outfit will work in this color, in this fabric, unless you draw it out.
Oh, that is pet peeve number 237. When pet peeve number 237 with students is when they bring in sketches that are not colored. And then they're like, they want to show me 20 sketches and they want to sit there and be like, okay, in this sketch, like they'll bring me sketches like this where nothing is colored and they'll lay out their fabrics and they're like, this is supposed to be this fabric and this is supposed to be this fabric and this is supposed to be this fabric. And then the next sketch, they'll do that they think they're going to do that for 20 sketches. I'm like, wow, no, absolutely not. That's crazy.
This is when you have your fabric already decided, and then when you know what kind of pattern you're using, what kind of color you're using, and then this is just for your brainstorming also. But when you
have to like lay down some color.
Yeah,
like if you're using a dark brown wool.
If I don't have a time, what I do, at least the corners or something, like one portion I color so someone can see this is how it's gonna look like.
You know what I do? I get a marker that bleeds a lot. And so all I do is just go shh, and it just bleeds.
Yeah, and then
it doesn't have to be a perfect sketch, but you need to drop in some color so we have some idea as to the overall look.
Yeah, I never present like this to a client. Clients have to see either all the fabric swatches next to it, not like this one will be that color, this one will be that color. That's not going to work. No. Not even in school, not even reality, not even your personal clients. You have to have some sort of a combination that they can see. Because not everyone's studied fashion. They're not going to visualize that.
Yeah, and it's not just for like, Dahae's custom clients. You're going to work with plenty of people who don't have a fashion background.
Exactly.
I'm talking about merchandisers and sales guys who don't know how to read a design sketch, but you still have to sit in a meeting with them and explain your next collection. And they don't have to be super beautiful and fully rendered, but they have to be colored in enough where people are like, oh yeah, this is this fabric and this is this fabric and whatever, all the shirts are going to be white and blah, 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 whatever. So you have sketches, you have 1 million sketches, you've edited down to 10 outfits. What do you do next?
Well, I have to tell you one story.
Okay.
My first...
Tell me all the stories.
The design 101 class in my school, Academy of Art, and then one of the teacher of design 1 class, we were doing 6 outfits collection. That was my first collection ever. She told us to design 10 times more. If you're doing 6, then go over 60. Mm-hmm. If you're doing 7, go over 70. Mm-hmm. And I didn't understand why we have to do 70 and 80 or whatever. But then what she did, we designed whatever and all the statement pieces and everything. She was like cutting out this detail, that detail, all this. And then, okay, this detail will work with this detail. This detail will work with this detail. The moment I was seeing her editing down the 6 outfits out of 80 something, it was magical to me. Like if I don't have that many options, that collection wouldn't come out and it would have been harder.
Yeah, I like to tell students that having too many ideas is not a problem.
That's never a problem.
You know, you can always get someone to help you edit. You can get drunk and edit yourself. But your problem is if you don't have enough ideas.
Yeah.
That's a big problem. Huge problem.
Like if you have to drink, then drink. If you have to smoke, then smoke. But then the more
oh
ideas
my God, I'm going to have like Mothers Against Drunk Driving leaving comments on my channel.
But the more... oh, whatever. It's all designers.
We are the worst examples.
But the more ideas you have...
You guys, find healthy ways to relieve your stress, okay? Not drinking, not smoking.
Not drink driving. Not drunk driving.
You don't even drive. It's fine.
I have a license.
Do you even know how to drive?
No, I don't even know how to ride a bicycle.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I know how to go straight. I just don't know how to turn.
Okay, you're like double Zoolander.
I have to stop.
At least Zoolander knows how to turn right.
Yeah. But going straight, I'm so good. I go so fast. Oh my God.
Oh my God, I'm dying.
Oh this is gonna be good.
Okay. All right. So we've edited because you have so many ideas and we have to cull them all down. And, you know, everyone is always like, this is what I hate. This is pet peeve number 273 is when I'm helping a student edit and there is this outfit that is just so clearly does not belong with the rest of the lineup. Like it sticks out like a sore thumb, like a third thumb. It's like sticking out like this. But the student wants to keep it because it's their baby. It's their favorite. It's like their dream dress. They want to get married in it. What do you tell them?
Forget it. I'm sorry, I didn't want to make this face, but that's just a fashion designer's ego. Only you think that designer is going to be like, oh my God, this is my baby. I have to keep this collection. But if that doesn't go well with any other outfits, that's useless. No one's going to be paying attention to that outfit.
I tend to think, you know, have you ever heard that thing where a choir is only as good as its worst singer? I feel that way about a collection. Like a collection is only as strong as its worst outfit.
Yeah, and then if you really love this collection, one outfit, then keep that outfit for different collection or another collection, and then branch out from that look. But having
I have so much paper in my studio, you guys. If you light a match in here, boom, we're all dead.
I know
because there's
it was
so
hard
much
to pick this board. I was like, I had like.
So you have your final sketches. What do you do next? Patterns
is the most time-consuming process of all the collection, I would say.
My guess would be if you decided one day you were done with running your own business, you could make a lot of money as a pattern maker.
I love pattern making because when I see, oh, this detail goes here, this detail goes there, like it's like my baby's coming out of life. Like so I love pattern making. I put most of the time in pattern making. I tend to sew fast, so I don't pay too much attention. I mean, of course I pay attention, but I don't spend so much time on sewing. Instead of that, my pattern has to be correct. And again, I'm going back to school, but one of my teacher told me 1/8 of an inch difference can make so much difference.
Oh, totally.
And then I know it's very, very different, but then he quoted like, fashion designers can be like a doctor. Like one tiny mistake can make one person look so different, so beautiful, or so horrible. Like doctors can, like one mistake, someone can die or alive. It's completely different. And so I have a very, I take that very seriously. So like I do so many fittings and then make the pattern correct as possible. So pattern making after that, like taking the most of time.
How do you feel about designers who don't know how to make patterns or sew?
They're not fashion designers.
Thank you.
I don't call Kim Kardashian's or Kardashian's, outfits, or I don't call any of celebrities, who just want to design. They're not a fashion designers.
They're stylists.
Yeah, they
create a style based on their own personality.
Marketing. They're not a designers. They don't know how to make patterns. They don't know how this line goes where, it sits where, and then that makes what difference. They don't know that. They're not a designer.
Yeah,
no.
Like I'm a pretty good pattern maker, I'm not very good at sewing because I'm just not. It's not my skill, but I know how to.
Exactly.
And if you tell me like, you know, what do you prefer, a 1/4-inch baby roll or an 1/8 of an inch baby roll? I know exactly the difference between those two, and I know what they would do to the fabric and what they would do to the overall look, and I will pick one.
Knowing the pattern making, meaning that you know how the fitting, you know how it's gonna sit on your body. Not knowing sewing, that's fine. You can sewing part, yes, you can hire someone who can do whatever, sample making, whatever. But if the designer doesn't know how it's gonna sit on someone's body, what are you gonna do? You're just gonna keep giving like sample makers, you know, oh yeah, try this fitting, that fitting. No.
Yeah, people in business, they're always talking about, you know, you need to hire people that will teach you. You need to hire people that do things better than you in certain areas. And I totally agree with that. But at the same time, you have to have a baseline knowledge.
Exactly.
Okay?
Yeah.
So that you can actually have a conversation with your pattern maker. You should definitely hire a pattern maker who's better at it than you. You should hire sample makers who are better at sewing than you. But you need to know some of it so A, you know that they're not swindling you, and B, that you guys can talk and troubleshoot all this stuff.
My point is until the pattern making, you should know everything if you want to be a fashion designer. And then even sewing part, you can send it out, but I don't respect any designer who doesn't know what kind of stitches that is and then what kind of basic of sewing construction go. Then, you know, as long as you know all that, yes, you can talk to any other people you hire. But if you don't know any of that details, then no.
Yeah. And you don't have a realistic understanding of, you know, how long things are going to take to make, and you don't know how to cost anything, like estimate costs of your collection, because you don't know how skilled someone has to be to make something. You don't know how long it takes to sew certain things.
Yeah, it's important.
Yeah.
That's why you go to fashion school.
That's why you take like 800 classes.
I know. That's why it costs millions of dollars.
They're like, Zoe, can you... Oh, my favorite story in the whole world, okay? So I was sitting in class, or what was I doing? I don't know, office hours maybe. I don't know, students are always trying to talk to me outside of class. Zoe! What? So she's like, Zoe, can you just tell me the rules? Just like, of how to design. And I just looked at her like, what are you talking about? And you're like, you know how like when you teach illustration, you're like, step 1, trace the gesture. Step 2, build the body. And just tell me how to do that with designing stuff. And I'm like, this is not croquis building. If it was that simple to learn how to design, you wouldn't need to learn. You wouldn't need to take 4, 5, 6 design classes before you graduated. If it was that simple, you could just take a design class and you would be released. Okay?
And you'll be a millionaire, but it's not going to happen.
You know what you do with one design class? You make shit like Uggs.
My first design class, I had whole outfits with thread hanging out, like threads from here to there, threads from here to there. That was my experimental design. But who's gonna wear it? It's gonna like, you know, you're gonna be like,
My first design project, I decided that I was gonna make a fabric that looked like, you know, those Eskimo drums with the seal gut stretched over the top. I was going to make fabric that looked like stretched seal gut.
Well, that's the reason why I do not get rid of any of my school projects. So I can see, oh, that time I was thinking of that, like meaning stupid. And then
everyone needs a humbling experience.
Yeah, like
on the regular.
Exactly. It's like you can never produce that. Like who's gonna dye one thread of yarn from like, you know, blue to red and then put it on your garment? Like no.
Oh man, you're worse than me.
You know?
Tell me about your worst fitting.
Oh God. Worst fitting, I have 2 stories.
Okay.
One was, hold on, I need this. One was the guy with the huge butt. only butt is here and then hip is here, right? But like I have never. So normally for men's suit pants, there's one dart, like one very very slimming dart.
Right?
That's it. But then for this guy, I had to put 3 extreme darts on the back and then slim down on the side too.
Okay, stop. Did you just say 3 darts?
3.
Like
3.
Wait, no. So like 3 on each butt cheek?
Yeah, 3. So total 6 darts. 1 very near the center front, and then 1 very center out the back pockets, and then 1 near the side, and then I had to slim in the side too on the hip.
Oh my god, you're killing me.
But he was like, oh, well, I don't want to wear a belt. And I'm like, that's impossible for your life. But like, okay, let me try. Everything else looks like a guy, but waist down, it looks like Beyonce.
Oh my god, Becky.
And then the other painful fitting was 49er players. Those football players, their one thigh was 26 inches.
Holy shit.
Yeah, so their waist was under 40, but their one thigh was 26 inches.
Tree trunks.
And then their calves were not that big. So I had to make.
What do you mean their calves weren't that big?
I mean, it's big, but compared to 26 inches, who has 20-something inches of calves?
So they only work out their thighs?
Yeah, they had huge thigh. So their body was, well, similar to the, like 3 darts butt, but then, more into different area. So I had to, that was painful too.
26-inch. So did you have to work with any kind of stretch fabrics, like anything with like a 2% stretch?
They didn't want the stretchy fabric. They wanted suits.
Dang. But was it fun though? You were working with 49ers. And cut.
I'm a baseball fan, so if I make any suits for Giants players, I would drop anything to make their suits. But football,
their bodies are all over the place. You got some guys that are super fit, and some guys were like...
Well, that just means more fitting.
Talk to me about the importance of flats. Very important? Not important at all?
Extremely important.
Are you sure? Because students really hate doing them.
Oh, I used to hate it too.
Oh, yeah.
Well, no, this is a reality story. When I was in school, I was like, why do I do the flats like this? Why do I have to make it perfect? But I didn't know until I got out of school and then working for some people. Oh, correction. I didn't know until I worked with factories. Like flats is the Bible for the fashion designers and then the factories. The one thing I say to fashion designers or fashion design students, you don't have to draw beautiful. You can draw beautiful, yes, that's wonderful, but then you have to have a perfect flats to go on your career. Factory wouldn't take any of crappy flats, and they're not gonna know what kind of stitches go here, what kind of length is here, what kind of details go here. They depend everything 100% on the flats. They don't look at this illustration; they look at the flats.
Yeah, illustrations are for your portfolio.
Exactly.
Are for presentations, for meetings where you guys are talking about the direction of the collection.
If you're a designer for certain brands or if you're working for some, other people, illustration is so important because they have some other people who's doing the tech pack. But if you're doing everything for yourself and then you have your own brand, tech pack is so important. Even if you work with a tech designer, if you don't know, you cannot correct it.
Boom. See, that it goes back to the whole knowing how to sew, knowing how to make patterns.
Yeah.
It's like you have to know how to make flats so that you can work with your tech designer. Maybe they'll improve it or they'll point out, you guys are pointing out errors to each other. You're editing each other because it saves so much time, energy, and money to figure out all those mistakes in this 2D drawing step. Then to send it out to your factory, it comes all wrong. They send you a sample because they've made the pattern. They've done your first sample. They spent $300 to express ship it overnight to you from China. And you try it on and your armholes are up here because no one corrected the armholes. and the rest of the design looks amazing, but your armholes are up here and you can't sell that. You can't even sell it at a sample sale because nobody wears jackets like that.
Flat is very, very important.
Hey guys, draw flats.
I would suggest to learn all the languages because I try to produce some of my collections in Korea, and then their lingo, it was so different from like American language. And then I would know, of course, I was like, yeah, this is the top stitching, this is whatever stitchings, and this is like, you know, French seam, this is, you know, bias or whatever. But the Korean and Asian market, their factory was using different terms. So they're like, so I don't even remember. So I suggest if you know what kind of country you're going for, I would suggest you learn. The first thing you want to learn is their lingo.
Yeah.
That was important too.
What do you hate about the design process?
I know some people are going to hate me, but in a school-wise, I had nothing to hate about because it was like, that was the time I learned. But then in reality-wise, there's a few, but then one of them, the major thing is like when my client smells. You cannot laugh like that. You cannot have any face expression. You have to be calm and respectful. And then, okay, models, I can tell them because I'm hiring them or I'm working with them. I can tell the agency or like whatever those models take a shower before the fashion show. I can say all that. But then to my clients, I can't. My clients, it's they're paying me money. Yeah. So I have to suck it up. But then some of the clients, it's like, I'm measuring their waist. I'm measuring their chest. I'm measuring their...
You're in their armpits.
Armhole. I'm going underneath their arms. It's like...
What gets you excited the most? Like, what is the one thing where you just geek out and talk about it forever and ever, and like even if people stare at you like you're crazy, you're like, whatever?
When I finish one garment.
Oh yeah, you text me every time.
I know, like when I finish one garment, like literally one or two people, it's I send it to Zoe and then I send it to my own sister. Like I'm like, this is what I just made. Like this is what I just made. Like it's like even if I don't see any garment that's on a person, like once I finish the last stitch, that's when it's like I want to listen to music and dance. Like I know it's crazy, and then I know people don't understand it, but once I finish one garment that I designed, I made a pattern, I did the fitting, and I chose the fabric, and it's coming out of the real product. That's when I'm like, yeah.
Tell me about school. Where did you go? Why did you pick it?
I went to Academy of Art University in San Francisco. And then the reason I chose, it's a long story, but I wanted to go to Rhode Island or New York. But my dad is a pilot, and then I'm the last daughter, and then he wanted to see me more often. And then his flight were more into California than New York. So he was like, just go to California so I can see you more often. So that's why I chose California. In California...
But California has a lot of design schools.
Like, I was accepted to one school in LA, two schools in LA, and then one in Oakland, CCA, and then one in San Francisco, which was Academy of Art. And then my dad were flying more to San Francisco, so he was like, just go to San Francisco. So I chose that, but I knew even from the get-go that I wanted to do menswear. So I was like, I looked for all these the 4 schools, and then Academy of Art has a separated menswear design school. So that's when I was like, okay, I'll just go to this school because I want to do menswear. If I had 2 bodies, I could have done menswear and then textiles.
I always have, like, I say all the time that textile development and fabrics, like, they're the future of fashion. It's the one area where we're constantly innovating. In other areas of design, we're we use old silhouettes and we rework things and we restyle them and we put things together in new ways. But fabrics is really where we're making brand new things happen all the time. Like, look at all that 3D printing stuff.
Exactly.
Oh, one of my students was talking about how Adidas takes plastic from the ocean, like junk, and they recycle it and they 3D print shoes from the recycled plastic from the ocean.
That's amazing.
And you know what? Like, he was talking about this in class, so I just stopped class so we could Google it and look at it together, and they're kind of dope. Wow. Like, they're actually like shoes I would actually wear, not just because it was, all the cool technology and, environmental stuff.
Like, if I didn't know any of basic knowledge of textiles and knitwear, I couldn't have talked to any factories, any factory companies. But because that was mandatory, like, I know what to tell them, what to expect. So that was really good point too.
Do you think your program prepared you to work in the real world?
No.
Okay. In what ways do you think your program didn't prepare you?
In reality, I wish fashion design students could have spent more time on merchandising. Like, I know nowadays it's separated, fashion design and fashion merchandising, but that even if you're a fashion designer, the most of information that you need to use is from fashion merchandising.
Okay, so for my viewers who don't know what merchandising is
fashion merchandising is fashion buying, fashion producing, and then all those other work than fashion design. And then I remember one of my mandatory class of fashion merchandising was one of the teacher was teaching us about costing, and then finding out about your quantities, and then finding out about your price. But back then we were like, we're fashion designers, we don't need to know of this. And then we all had like bad grades of that and then whatever. But now, once I open my own business, the majority of information I use is those kind of information. Like how to approach the factories, how to approach to anyone about quantities of this much, like how to talk to people about, like, oh, we need this kind of trim, this kind of trim, this kind of trim.
Sourcing is a huge deal.
Yeah.
It's like, it's this puzzle that you don't have the picture cover for, and you just have the puzzle pieces, and you just have to figure it out without a guide.
My only, if I have one suggestions for a fashion designer who wants to own their own business, is do not disregard the fashion merchandising classes, and then just take whatever you can. Like, I would suggest fashion business classes or fashion buying classes or sourcing classes, whatever you can take.
We had a class called Apparel Manufacturing Practices.
That's important too.
And that was like one semester. And looking back, I really wish it was a year-long class.
Yeah, it's very important.
What do you have to say to design students right now who are saying, you know what, Dahae, you are squishing my dreams, you are cramping my style, you are crushing my reality, and you don't sound like any fun at all?
I said the same thing to you. I want to tell, this is when I was teaching my students in Malaysia, I said the same thing. Like, I was like that too. Like, I was like, if anyone's like, yeah, you need to know that, I'm like, no, I'm a fashion designer. Don't talk to me like that. But reality, even if you work for someone else, you need to know all that. And then you're not a fashion designer you want to be. Like, you're a baby. You need to know all the basics. All the successful designers, they know all the basics.
Mm-hmm. I remember I was reading this interview with John Galliano back when he was at Dior, back before he had his mental breakdown. And he was saying that, he, at the time, he was really known for a lot of his completely crazy designs. He was not like the most, wearable designer you could think of, right? But even then, he, during his interview, said, I am aware all the time the thousands of jobs that I am responsible for if I fuck up. And I think about all those jobs and all those families who depend on those jobs every time I design a collection. And that moment, I was like, wow, that is a lot of pressure to be under. And
But that's true.
but
though.
it's true though. It's like, you know, it's so important to be free and to design and just go out there and make beautiful things. But at the same time, you also need to give yourself doses of reality that you need the money to create another collection. You need to be cognizant of the jobs that you're responsible for. You need to know that at the end of the day, your job is to make clothes that people want to wear. And if you're not making clothes that people want to wear, then what are you making?
Yeah.
That's fashion. We make clothes that go on bodies, and some of us want to wear completely crazy, issey miyake accordion style dresses, and some of us want to wear jeans and t-shirts. And there's room for all of us. There's room for all different kinds of creativity. But in order for that creativity to happen, you also have to have a broader skill set to make it real, like to bring it all into life.
I hated the students when I was in school. I'm not like goody two whatever, but I hated the students who were like, I'm a fashion design student. Why do I have to do the textiles? Why do I have to do knitwear? Like, why do I have to know sewing? I can't spend money to hire someone. Like, but the final quality after 10 years is going to be completely different. You know everything, and then you only know money. You know everything. It's going to be beautiful and then well executed, and then the one with the money, it's going to be like crap. Like, so whatever you learn in the school or whatever, like the more you can learn about fashion is so important.
Yeah, you don't have to graduate knowing everything, but you need to know a little bit about everything so that you know where to educate yourself. Like, you need to be aware of how to cost things so that if you're not good at that, you need to fill that void with, learning more basic math, learning how to use Excel, finding someone who's very good at costing.
And one thing, when students complain about like a large amount of homework, suck it up. I'm sorry, but I was complaining too one time, but the homework is
You know what though? That's a student's job.
No,
It's their job.
not their job.
You know what? We all did it. We all complained about having too much homework. It's all part of our job.
No, it's not their job. They're just being a brat. I'm sorry.
You totally just called yourself a brat.
I didn't complain about my homework. I did it. But like,
Shirarane.
I know. I did 99 outfits out of 100. But what I'm saying is, when you do that homework, there's a reason for that homework. And then,
are you sure? Because there's some teachers that are just evil and they just make you do things because they're horrible people.
Well, I was lucky enough to have like good teachers. like now, I graduated in 2009, and then now I'm running my own business, and all I can think of when I'm like doing whatever my business and my business plan and whatever fashion design and then product, every time I go back to my classes. So it's so important. Even drawings, like if I don't draw that well, I cannot present this to investor. Like, every drawing means something, every sketches means something, every flats means something, every notes means something. So please stop complaining about your homework or your classes, and don't give out your homework. I know some of the students pay someone to do their homework. Don't do that. Teachers know.
What do you do when you're stuck in a design rut? You might be having ideas, but none of them work. Like you're supposed to follow a specific design direction from your boss, from your teacher, and you're stuck because you can't get there.
The first thing I want to say, you have to know how your brain works and then how yourself work as a designer. Because I work better under pressure. I do not work. I cannot design any single clothes when I'm taking a vacation. Like, if I'm like comfortable and I'm taking a whatever, like I do not design anything. But if I have deadline, this is your project, this is your money, like this is whatever, then I design like crazy. So one of my teacher in a school, again, one time he was like, he sent every student home and he was like, I'll give you 30 minutes, you do 100 design. Of course I can do it. But I did my best, and then I came back after 30 minutes, and then he was like, this is all trash, and threw it away. I'll give you 15 minutes and do a 50 design. Of course I couldn't finish. Whatever I did, he threw it away. I'll give you 5 minutes to 10 designs. Of course he threw everything away. And then he came back, and then when I came back with the fourth design, he was like, bring all those designs back. And then he took everything, like spread out, whatever. Every single design here is worth it. I just wanted to tell you, you work better under pressure. And then he sent those designers who has to have more time home, who has to have more time in library. He sent those designers to the library. He
knows his students.
Yeah, he kept me in that room and was like, do it, do it, do it. And so for me, I have to have like deadlines or whatever. Then yeah, I design whatever. But if I'm on a vacation or whatever, like, oh yeah, you can design whatever you want. Like, I don't do it. So the point is, like, you need to know how you operate as a designer.
Do you have any things that you would like to say to my viewers?
The one thing, it could sound so corny, but one thing, if you want to be a successful fashion designer, I'm not even consider myself as a successful fashion designer, but if you want to be a designer, you need to get rid of your ego. Like those fashion designers' ego. Oh, yeah, I'm a fashion designer. I can do anything. I can make whatever money. No, unless you know all the knowledge, you cannot have any job. No one's going to hire you without, you working so hard. Fashion designers work so hard to get to where that point. Like whatever you see in the news, Alexander Wang took a few sweaters and going to stores and stores if you want to take my sweaters and if you want to buy my sweaters. Like even him did that. Like you cannot have that huge fantasy. Only one thing I tell my students or my people, my friends, get rid of the fantasy. Like you are not going to be John Galliano. You're not going to be Alexander McQueen in a one day. That doesn't take that long. That doesn't take, that's not going to happen. And you have to have so much work, so much study, so much understanding of other people. Fashion designers work with 10 different jobs, 10 different people. You have to understand all of them. You have to respect all of them. You have to get rid of your ego. You have to get rid of your pride. That's when you're slowly making your way into fashion. So if you have that fantasy, get rid of it and then be humble if you want to be in fashion.
I agree with you, but where is the line between humbling yourself and getting rid of your ego and being manipulated and pushed too far?
I can say a few examples for maybe production example. If production person, when you don't have that much experience, and then production person like, yeah, we think we need to get rid of this design to like work on your cost, or if that would make it more beautiful or whatever. If you have a fashion designers with the ego, I'm like, no, that's my design, you keep it, whatever that is. You end up losing money instead of listening to 20 years of experience of a pattern maker. Like that kind of stuff. Like I want people who wants to be in fashion business to be open to listen to other people's opinion. Like that's really important. Like I didn't know anything about marketing because I was so into I'm telling my own experience. I was so into my own designs, and I knew my designs were good, and then I was proud of it. But then as a marketing point, it's not going to work. Like I had to listen to these marketing people who has more experience with fashion industry. I had to listen to this, the factory who has more experience with the menswear industry, instead of like, no, I'm the designer, you say whatever I say. So the being humble part is like be open-minded to listen to other people who has more experience other than fashion design.
Mm-hmm.
That's really important.
Thank you. How drunk are you now? Can you go and sew right now?
Yeah.
Shut up. If you were trying to sew right now.
No, in 2 hours, I'm going to be sober as possible. And then sewing one jacket takes 2 hours. I can make like 2 jackets today.
That was Tipsy interview with Dahae Kim.
I'm not tipsy. I'm good.
You're lying.
I have a military liver.
You've never been in the military.
But I got the liver.
This has been Tipsy interview with Dahae Kim, designer at Witch Kim. You can follow her at, what's your social media?
For Instagram is witchkim_official, and then Facebook, I don't know.
You have a Facebook page.
I know, I don't.
Oh my God, you're the worst. See, this is why you need to talk to marketing people, because you don't even know your own social media.
See, that's why you cannot disregard any other people in fashion industry.
Okay, do you know your Twitter handle?
Oh, shit.
Oh my God.
I only know Instagram.
Do you have Snapchat?
What's that?
Do you have Tumblr?
What's Tumblr?
And this is why she has to talk to fashion marketing people. If you have any questions for me or Dahae, drop us a comment below. I hope you enjoyed this interview and that you learned about some real life industry experiences. Let me know if you're interested in future interviews like this one with industry professionals. All right, and I will see you next time.
Bye!